Hey, we're recording. Good evening, everybody. Tonight we are meeting with Jane Hamill. And you know, this is like getting towards the end of this course, and you guys are a good group and it's exciting. And Jane is like, oh, I told my daughter I'd send her a link. I got to do that. Acknowledge that Jane is my BFF. Jane coaches like I do, but she works with people in the fashion industry. And Jane and I can challenge each other and push all kinds of ideas because we're totally non-competitive. Whereas when I bring on certain other mentors here and stuff like that, sometimes I think they're full of beans, and I don't quite point it out because I'm so very polite. But with Jane, I would be pleased to point it out.
I was going to say, I've never experienced that, man.
Because she's special. All right, Jane, how are you?
I am really, really great. Thanks for having me. I'm psyched to be here. This is a blast.
All right, so with most people, I want to know how they got into the art stuff. But, I mean, did you know you were aberrant from when you were a kid? Or as my friend Tony Fitzpatrick says, when did you realize you were a dented can?
A what? A dented can.
A dented can.
I never really fit in with the more traditional, like, folks that I was growing up with, I suppose. And I always... from a young age, you may know my sister Ruth, Paul does. She's an artist. She went through Paul's program. That's how I met him. And she does non-traditional oils. And we lived in Minnesota at the time, in Minneapolis, and it was freezing there all the time. Okay, freezing. And she would sew in the basement. And I went down there and I was like, hey, this looks kind of cool. You're making Barbie clothes. She must have been like 11 and she was 12, I was 8, something like that. I said, can you show me how to sew? And she's like, yeah, sure. Here's a Vogue pattern. Read those directions. That's it. Read the directions. Hi, Ruth. Love you. So anyways, yeah, so I just started sewing, and I started making things for my Barbie clothes like so many kids do. And then I was just sort of hooked on creating three-dimensional stuff. That was it for me. It wasn't like, oh, I need to design clothes. It just happened to be that I could sew.
But you did, all right. So all the way up to the present, then you ended up growing up, going to college, getting a degree in.
Well, I started college at Boston University because I was going to be normal. And it was the point where I had to choose a major, a year and a half in. And I was between art history and economics. And I really could not decide because those were the two things I was really interested in. Art history, I always just fell asleep because they turned off the lights. You know, like, how can you stay awake for that? Economics, I couldn't understand a goddamn word anything the professors were saying because their accents were so thick. I was like, both of these kind of suck. I don't know what to do. So I asked my folks, I was like, look, I really want to study fashion. They talked me out of it as a high schooler saying, that's sweet. You do that after you get your degree. But I ended up transferring to FIT in New York, which is the Fashion Institute of Technology, and I got a BFA in fashion design.
And then what? Then you became famous?
Yeah, and then I was like super famous, like all designers do, you know?
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, wow. Just go to college and get famous?
Yeah, it was like super easy. So, all right. So then I went to, I worked in New York, and I had a first internship with Willie Wear, which was Willie Smith, which was a really hot designer at the time. And they said, all right, show up for your first day, and you're not getting paid because he's like all of that designer at the time. It was like Perry Ellis times. He was a big thing. So I show up, and it was an hour waiting for him. And he never, like, nobody was there. They're like, just sit here. You're the intern. What do we care? And I got frustrated. And finally he showed up, and he was like, oh, yeah. Okay, well, just do this. And I was like, I can't do this. They hate me. I have nothing to do here. And I didn't have, like, the patience for it. So I took a job working for a coat company in New York where they offered me $22,000. And in 1991, that was like, okay, that's a lot better than working at Willie Wear. So I took it. And it was a terrible job in the sense of I was designing kids' outerwear, which I had no interest in whatsoever. But it was great because I got to learn. I got to work in the garment district. I learned how to help the craftspeople make a better product, so I had been to design school, so I had certain skills that were limited because I just got out of school, of course, but I got to work with the sample makers, and these are guys and women who had 20 years of experience doing patterns, sewing, like true craftsmen, and that was kind of an amazing experience.
Why did you up and leave New York?
So, you know why?
No.
I was on an elevator
Okay,
Like
an
all the good stuff
epiphany.
happens on an elevator, probably. And I didn't like my job. I was from the Midwest, and everybody else was a New Yorker, really New Jersey, and I never really fit in. And it just they were always like making fun of my accent, and it was just I never really fit in at work. I like New York, but at work. And I get in the elevator, and this guy, I'm on the 53rd floor, right? So it takes a while to get there. And this guy says, he runs into a buddy, and he goes, "Hey, how are you? How are you doing? How long have you been in here? Why are you here? Whatever." He goes, "Yeah, I'm living here. Me and my girlfriend or whatever, we're living in the East Village or something, and it's fine. We're enjoying it." And he goes, "Well, how about you like New York?" He goes, "Yeah, I like it for now, but then soon enough, I'm going to go home, move back home, and start my real life." And I remember thinking, oh my God, is that what I'm doing? Like, is this my real life? I don't want this to be my real life. I don't like it. I didn't like living in New York. I didn't like dealing with the garment district and the garmentos, And so I quit, and I decided I didn't have a plan, but I had a chance to go to Spain for 5 weeks. So that's all I needed. My best friend spoke Spanish. She was my best friend from BU my very first day of my freshman year. She's still my best friend. She still lives in New York. And she was living in Spain, and I was going to go with her and tour the south of Spain for 5 weeks. And that was it. I saved up money and I quit. And I announced I was leaving, and it was 2-week notice. And they said, "Okay, well, that's too bad." That my boss cried, actually, which really disturbed me, which was sweet now, but at the time it was like totally horrific. And she said it was awful. I was like, "What? Why are you crying? Like, you can get another assistant. This is New York City." So she's crying. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I hate this place. And so they said, "Well, would you like to work for us in Chicago?" And I was like, "Well, that's cool, but you guys have never even been to Chicago." Like, it was the place where they'd say, if I go west of the Hudson, I have to bring my passport. Like, that's so funny. So I was like, okay. So they said, "Well, we have a guy. We just hired him to run our international division. He lives in New York. He's about to move his whole family here to New York City, or to New Jersey probably, but the space was in New York. Maybe you guys could meet." And I was like, "Well, okay, but I'm leaving for Spain on a week from Saturday." So it was like, this was a Wednesday. He flew out to New York. I met him on Friday. I was like, "Well, you seem nice." He said, "You seem nice." I had a job. That was it. My last day of work. I had a job when I got back after my 5 weeks in Spain. And so I worked in Chicago here for almost 1 year. And then I opened up my own store and clothing line in Lincoln Park. And it was...
What gave you the balls to think you had what gave you the ovaries to think you had the moxie, the ability to open your own friggin' store?
Too stupid to know how hard it was the biggest thing, honestly.
Probably.
25
Really,
years
truly?
old, I thought I can always waitress. That was my biggest, I was like, what's going to happen? I mean, I got nothing here. And then so I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I didn't want to move back to New York. And they were offering me a really nice job with a car and this, and it would have been a career move. And I was like, I can't move back there. I want to stay here. I tried to get a job here. I took a job. I quit before I started. I'm sort of unemployable. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. I wanted to open up a store. And I went to a family party, and it was like a Christmas party. And I was talking to, the family, and my uncle says, "What are you up to?" And I said, "Well, I'm dating this guy, whatever." Dating my boyfriend at the time was getting his MBA at Kellogg. And so I said, "I'm working on a business plan," because, he told me I should, right? So I was. And he goes, "Oh, really? You should send it to me." And I was like, "Why would I do that? Like, right? You're such a nosy uncle, oh, leave me alone." So I just was like, "Oh, that's sweet. Okay. No," but I never sent it. And then 2 weeks later, he calls me up and he says, "I never got your business plan." And I was like, "I am putting it in the mail right now as we speak." So I sent him my business plan thinking he just wanted to micromanage me, not realizing this particular uncle is a stockbroker in Lake Forest, right? So I didn't realize I had a rich uncle, right? And who doesn't want a rich uncle? So he called. I still didn't get it. So I was 25. I was so dense. He calls me up and he says, "Hey, I read your business plan. It's good." I was like, "Oh, thank you, nosy uncle." I was like, "God, why are you bothering me?" And he says, "Well, I talked to your other uncle, my brother, and he and I would like to invest in your company." And I was like, "Get out of here." I had no idea. I was such a dumbass. And he says, "Yeah, we would like to give you $25,000 as a loan." And basically it ended up that if the business went great, I paid him back. And if it failed, I didn't have to pay him back. It was insane. And so I had saved $2,000. So I had $27,000 to open up a store and design everything that goes in the store and produce it and get my own inventory. Everything was the Jane Hamill line.
When was that?
What's that?
When was that?
I was 25. It was 1992.
Okay.
Yep. And I opened up on Lincoln Avenue for any Chicagoans on Lincoln between Altgeld and Lille, so north of Fullerton. And at the time, it was a pretty cool street. It wasn't like the frat party that it is today. It was more, there were like 2 or 3 bookstores. There were 2 movie theaters, like indie movie theaters. It was a very fun area. And then it became much more like college area. And then I moved.
How did it go?
Well, I was scared to death. I mean, I was scared to death. So here I designed everything. So as everybody here is an artist.
Wait, can we equate this experience you're going through to that of a visual artist, you know,
oh, God.
getting their ass out into the world?
I mean, I think it's the same. The only thing that's worse or better about it, maybe easier, is that I was expected to make money, you know, whereas I think sometimes artists they come from a different background in the sense of it's all about the art, and being commercial about it is sometimes not viewed as a super great thing. Whereas people are like, you're really good at making clothes, you can make a business out of it. You know, I don't know if many artists go through that experience as far as friends and family and people supporting them. Not that people supported me. Let's not get crazy. It wasn't like everybody thought this was going to work. At all. I mean, my family was awesome, but there were plenty of people who thought I was out of my mind. And let me know it too, you know, of course.
Okay, so how long did you have the store? How many locations were you in?
Okay, so I opened up, So I opened up the first day, and of course it was before the internet, so I had no interwebs to check my balance on my account. And I started with $27,000, and I had got it down. And I called the bank the day of my grand opening party, and they said I had $430 left in the bank.
Well, at least you would have.
Like, well, there's a little money there. And this is it. Like, it works tonight or I'm out. Like, I'm not even going to get past the first week. It worked great. Thank God I have a huge extended family. Cousins, a lot of people came. It was great, but it could have sucked. And I started making money right away because I had such a good markup. I was designing my own stuff and getting it produced in Chicago. And so I had a good margin there.
Do you have to buy a bunch of your own line and spend money to own?
Yeah, I had to have inventory. Yeah.
So you have to buy it and you can't return it per se, can you?
To myself? No.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And the way I figured out, well, okay, I have the store. It's 650 square feet. It wasn't a big place. The rent was $950. I was like, how in the hell am I going to pay the rent, right? So I decided I would shop around and see. I had no idea how to decide how much inventory should go in there. You know, so like probably you do at a gallery show, you see how much wall space you have, you know? And so I just went to Ann Taylor. I figured, well, they know what they're doing. They're Ann Taylor. So I just went and I measured like this, and I'd go in the dressing room and like measure. I'd say, all right, so that's a 48-inch rack, and they have 35 pieces on it. Okay, and then a 30-inch rack has this number of pieces on it, like hangers. And then I went back and I measured my walls and added it up, and I said, okay, I need 350 units to open up the store. That's how I figured out my inventory. I had no idea what I was doing at all.
And how long did you do this?
I did it for over 14 years, and it worked.
How long did it take to figure it out?
5 years. It took me 5 years to make money. And
how long could you have done it if you talked to somebody smart in the interim?
Oh, wait, how long until I would have been more?
I know. How long would it have taken if you talked to you
oh God, I don't even like to think about that.
How long would it have taken the young you if they talked to the old you? Emphasis on old.
2.5 instead of 5. Definitely. And even then, the only thing that saved me is my sister Ruth. We went for a walk one day. I was living with her, or I don't know, whatever. We went for a walk, and I remember I said to her, I'm so excited. I'm 30, and I'm making 30. It's the first time I've ever made my age. Woohoo, I'm making 30,000. And she goes, oh, that's great. It's really not a lot of money.
Right.
You got to know Ruth. There's no like she'd say that to you, right? And I was like, F off. I'm my age and I'm making my age. And she goes, I'm just saying, I want you to know that's not a lot of money. And it had a profound effect on me because it made me think like, well, what do I want to make? Like, yeah, maybe this isn't right. Maybe I really should be approaching this more of a business than as my like design hobby here, I think that honestly did the trick. And then when it came for, she just that just stung. I mean, that hurt me, right? And so it became like, I need to figure this out or I'll probably have to get a job. Because I didn't want to be making $30,000 for the rest of my life, even though I was excited to be making it to now. I mean, she had a point and I really listened to her. And that's when I decided to take a big risk and move. And I moved locations. And I got my shit together a little more and started treating it more like a business. And then things really fell into place.
Let's segue to this, to me sneezing with this other discussion. It's kind of...
Bless you.
Thank you. There is this bullshit in the United States of America that says artists don't deserve to make good money. There is even bigger bullshit in smaller pockets of the United States of America that say you don't deserve to make any money on your art. It belongs to the universe. Now, I personally feel that each of you have the right to make a minimum of $250,000 a year. Minimum. Now, there's some stigma that human beings have in America that say, I'm an artist, that would be greedy. No, it isn't. That would be a swimming pool. You're entitled. You need to give yourself permission to do this. Jane, what is it about artists? What is it about culture? I mean, fashion is a whole lot better. I don't know. Is it better?
I don't know. I mean, I think clothing designers are in between the line of artists and people who make something for pay, like for real. So you get both kinds. You get that hardcore artist, and honestly, that's something I have a really hard time with because part of me just, I don't have the patience for it. I'm like, well, who says, like, what? I think we have been trained and society we've heard these messages, but I don't know. I mean, I'll just be honest and say, I think the most important thing is this. This is an exercise maybe everybody could try if you're up for it, okay? So you don't have to do it right this second, but you take a piece of paper, and I would turn on its side. And you're going to make 3 columns, all right? Column number 1. This is what I love to do all day. Love to do it. No matter what. Don't even censor yourself. I love to garden. I love to read books. I love to sing. I love to tickle my kid. I don't care what it is. Just this is what I love to do all day. Okay, so one of the women who was when we were starting, she's doing her sketches while we're talking. Another one is doing her crochet while we're talking. I'm guessing they're not going to be doing that if they don't really love it, right? So what do you love to do all day? What could you do all day? You just love it. And then on the right-hand side, you say, what will people pay me money for? Okay, well, they'll pay me money in my current job. I'm an IT specialist and I fucking hate it. Okay, whatever. What will people pay me money for? Okay, and then you take those 2 lists and you look for the crossover, even if it's not that obvious, and you put that in the middle. And that's worth the career right there. If you only want to do what you want to do and no one's going to pay you money for it, then that's more power to you. That's awesome. That is your hobby. Okay. But if this is how you want to make a living, you have to find a crossover because otherwise you're just banging your head against a wall. And I don't think anybody should create something all day and not make money. It's just, it's, I don't know what to say. It's sad. It's unfortunate, right? And we've all done it. Everybody's done it. I've done it. I've been like, I don't care if they buy this or not. I'm doing it because I need to. Great. That's 10%, 15% of your collection, right? I always would say every line I did, everything. I mean, having to create work to make a living is really effing hard. I mean, we all know this, right? You want to just do what you want to do and not worry if anybody buys it. But that's just not the way life works. I mean, that's great if you have the sugar daddy of the century, but I don't think anybody has it, or we wouldn't be on this call. So doing what you can do that you still love, that somebody will actually pay money for, that's the sweet spot. You can still save 10, 15, 20% of your time, your energy, your money, your resources towards your pet projects and your tests, which you should. Otherwise, you're never going to evolve, right? But so I would take a collection. Let's say there's, my line was big. So there's 30 designs, 30 pieces. And I would say 25 of them. Okay, so like a certain percentage is what I know I can sell. I sold it last year. People love it. Bang. The next thing is something that I'm so sick of it. I hate it, but they're the basics. I kind of have to sell them. Okay. And then I would always save that 10, 15, maybe 20% for total test, total I love it anyway, and I don't care if it sells. And that's what keeps you sane, I think, in having to create for a living. But I'm not going to say, it is immensely challenging and hard to have to produce something that you think people will like and pay money for. That is like a debilitating task sometimes for me.
There are differences, though, between that for fashion people and for art people. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But sure. Let's get back up to, let's wrap up the life story part. How you stopped having an outlet, a store.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I had my store. I sold my designs in my store. After about a year, I started buying other people's collections as well, so I didn't have to design every little t-shirt or anything. And then I sold to department stores. I sold to Bloomingdale's and Saks and Macy's and all across the country. And I had reps in 5 different cities, and I had a great press. I had CNN, and I was on NPR, and recently an entrepreneur, and Women's Wear Daily, and Chicago. Like, it was great, right? And I liked it. And then after my second child was born, 14 years later from starting the store and 2 kids, I was like done. I was just tired and ready to do something different. And my second son was born. He had some health issues. Things were crazy. And I decided to sell the business. So I sold the wholesale and the retail sides of the business in 2007, which was great because I didn't know the economy was going to tank in 2008. So I got out at the perfect time. And I'm glad I did. I miss it, and I wouldn't say I miss it, but I miss certain parts. Sourcing the fabrics, working with some of the people was great. But having to be creative on a schedule and have a season, it's so seasonal. Like, you can't be late in fashion. That's brutal. Brutal.
Okay. So now, one of the big problems for visual artists is the schism between I love spending time in my studio and my one-on-one relationship with my medium and my art. And I got to get my ass out of the studio and go grow relationships and go grow community and be an adult and keep a ledger.
Yeah.
Now, that's a big thing for visual artists. Is that a comparable thing for?
Well, I've worked with so I started Fashion Braid Academy in 2010. And even though I focus on the message on designers because I have to pick something, I do get a lot of artists. And I've coached artists and they've taken my marketing course, and the whole studio time thing is a huge thing. It is for designers too, but it's not quite as bad because you can just repeat bodies and other people can do the work. It's worse for artists. And I just put them, I do my best to help them set a schedule and to say, what is it that Stephen Pressfield, the guy who says, the guy who has do you know him? The other people know him. Going pro, turning pro. Yes. Oh, he's great. Oh my God. Anybody, if you haven't read his book, I'll find it. I'll find it. Okay. Stephen Pressfield, and it's about doing your creative work. He's an author, and he writes books and screenplays and things. And he says the resistance, the war of art. Thank you so much. The War of Art is one of the best books I've ever read. I give it to every single client, and I say, read this damn book before you even call me, please.
I think somebody else has sent that to me. It just showed up at my house like 3 days ago.
It's funny. I ordered one for you, but I think I have it here. I have 2 copies. All right, well, now you got it. So that's a good book.
Thank you.
But it talks about the resistance that we have to actually making our art. And so what I try to tell, and he says, when is it when you feel creative? He goes, 9 a.m. Every day at 9 a.m. Or I don't know if it's him or another artist says, every day at 9 a.m. I just am creative, whether I am or not. I just am. It's very funny. The author, somebody's in the chat. It's Stephen Pressfield. So when are you most creative? As soon as I sit down at my studio, that's when I'm most creative. Fuck it. I don't care. I'm going to be there. If I go there, I'm going to do something. That's it. And my former mother-in-law was a writer. Judith Viorst is her name. She is a writer. She wrote Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. They just made a movie out of that, which is kind of awful. That's my ex-husband. But, I mean, great for her, you know. But she would write, no matter what, 1 page a day, period. And if she didn't feel like it, if she was sick, it didn't matter. If it was 1 page a day, and that's just it. Yeah, he can't wait for the news. And either can she. She's like, I got a book to write. If I wait to get the perfect page, it's going to be 3 weeks. So I'm going to write 1 page a day, whether I'm on an airplane and I handwrite it. It doesn't matter to me. So it's I think part of it is just forcing you to do the work, even when you don't want to. And so when I work with artists, I say, which are your studio days? Which are your back office days? Which are your selling days? Because if you're in your studio 5 days a week, that's not going to work. That is not going to work. And maybe you can do, you know, stretches of that when you need to for a big show or whatever. But I really, really believe that if you can spend, and you should spend, 20% of your time on marketing your work, period. So all day Friday, or 1 hour a day, whatever you need to do, 2 hours a day, I don't know. Like if you can't spend time marketing your work, then you're never going to have, you won't be able to make a living.
What do you think the key ingredients are to having a successful career?
Oh, God. I honestly feel it's be able to take the no. You know, can you take the no's? You're going to hear a lot of no's. How many can you take and get back up and do it again the next day? That's a huge thing that I don't think people talk about really that much. Can you take the no's? Can you manage your cash flow? Like if you're really only thinking about selling something this weekend and you're not worried about paying the rent in 2 weeks, you're dead, right? And so many artists have side jobs because they just don't think about the cash flow. So can you take the no's? And can you do the work even when you don't want to do it? Can you move it into the job sphere rather than the my art is my life hobby sphere? And I'm not trying to be negative to people, but I've done the same flipping thing. When I had to design a new collection, I would wait. I would source the fabrics and I would do certain things I had to do, but I would wait till 2 weeks before I had to have that new line in the can and do it all in the last 2 weeks and stay up late and do it all, blah, 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 and just stupidity of procrastination. And then I would slam it all in and stress myself out and stay up all night and be exhausted. So this went on for like 8 years, you know, of designing. And then finally, I was sick of myself every single year, by the way. I hated this process, and yet I still did it, right? And finally, I don't know, I had to come to Jesus with myself. And I said, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why do you insist on waiting to the last minute when you know you don't have to? And I realized I did that because I was afraid the collection wasn't very good. Even though I didn't start it, I was always afraid the collection wouldn't be good no matter what. I was afraid the designs weren't cute. I was afraid they weren't going to sell. I was afraid they weren't creative. They were just like last time. Nobody would like them. And if they didn't sell, nobody reacted to it, then I could always say, well, what do you expect? I did it in 2 weeks. I know. It's so sad, but true that was my entire life for 8 years. Slamming creativity. Well, the first season I did okay, but slamming creativity to the last minute till I was forced to do it. So I had an excuse if it failed. And I would imagine, I don't know because I can't see the people, but I would imagine that's not an unusual.
I think that's a human trait.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that it's an arty trait, but I think it's a human trait. Do you get I mean, you work with a lot of artists, fashion creatives. Do you get a sense sometimes that, whoa, this person's going to be great? And other times you get a sense of, oh, this person shouldn't even bother.
No, but here's the bummer, and I don't mean to be the downer.
Is that the right answer?
I get the talent like this person has great flipping talent. Oh my God. I mean, there's a couple of those people I'm thinking of right now, never seen anything like them. Like truly talent oozing. But it has nothing to do if they're going to be great as far as like successful, meaning they make a living or not.
Okay, fine, but do you get a sense with some people that they're going to make a living and be successful, and God, this will be a fun person to work with because they're so...
Yeah, you know who I get it, here's the person I get that out of.
Yes.
The person who says, the person who takes risks and puts themselves out there and is not afraid to fail. That's the only, I don't take very many private clients right now. Those are the only people that I will work with these days. And I'm not saying I'm too good to work with. I just don't have that many clients. So it's lucky I'm in a position where it's like, okay, right? But so the person who says, I went to this event last week and Paul-Klein was there. And I was like, oh, I should talk to him, but I didn't because, I was busy and he has other people to talk to. That is not the person, right? And I know a lot of artists are introverts too. And believe it or not, I am an introvert. I get in front of a crowd, I get excited, but if I have a choice, I am curled up on the couch with a book. It's not my choice to be around people. And yet I'm never, ever going to let a chance to meet somebody like that pass in my life.
Okay, fine. So time out. Let's go back.
You can't even embarrass me. I'm unembarrassable anymore.
All right. So what are the traits of the person who you think is going to be successful?
Total obnoxious persistence in getting noticed.
Hi, look at me, look at me.
The ability to truly believe it's not up to other people to recognize your brilliance.
Who's it up to them?
It's up to you to show them your brilliance. Because you've called them 4 times and you've stopped by 3 times and you've emailed them 6 and you sent them a book you thought they would like. And you sent them a funny cat video because you noticed on Facebook they have a cat. And you sent them flowers on their birthday.
And that's good?
It's the best. It's the best. Yes. Those are all good.
So we should push to the verge or beyond of obnoxiousness.
Absolutely. And here's what happens. You become that person that's a little annoying. Like, why does this lady keep contacting me? God. And then you become like really annoying. And then they start to get curious about you. And then they start to really, I'm dead serious. Then they start to respect the fact that you haven't given up. And then they take your call.
How long is this? How much time is this?
It could be 3 weeks. It could be 9 months.
And this is mostly an email campaign that looks like...
it's got to be a few different ways. It's got to be a few different ways.
Like a postcard and an email. And,
I see it as a 4-pronged approach. It's a snail mail and then an email, which includes something of value to them. Not just, hey, please look at my work. You can't, you got to add value. Like, hey, I loved your gallery and I thought you would enjoy this blank blank. Have a great day. Okay. And then it's a postcard, and then you stop by, and then you call, and then you send a postcard, an email, or a note saying, look, I have this, I'm an artist. I know you get pitched all the time. I'm not pitching you. I want 15 minutes of your time. I want to bring you coffee. I'm going to swing by. I have these 5 questions. Here they are. I'm no sneak attacks. I promise I will respect your time, and I'll stay with the 15 minutes. Which coffee do you like? A latte or what? What's a good day? And they're not going to respond, and they're not going to respond, and they're not going to respond, okay? But you don't care if you get knocked out. You don't care if they say no. You're crazy. You just stop caring. And once you if you can stop caring, then you have it made. You have the whole world is up for your grabs, But I have trouble with stop caring too. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm implementing this perfectly all the time. I have and I haven't, and I have clients that have done it unbelievable. I mean, I decided I mean, believe me, I get in my own way all the time, but there are certain times when I have done this beautifully and it's worked. So I had reps in 4 cities. I had New York, LA, Chicago, and Dallas. And I was like, I'm missing Atlanta. I need Atlanta because my clothes are kind of preppy and these women would wear it. So 6 a.m. flight, I get on. I almost missed the flight. I remember running through the airport like OJ. I get on a flight to OJ before he killed somebody, or whatever. Sorry, maybe he didn't. We don't know. So I'm running. I make the flight. I bring my samples. I have my samples over my thing. I have them in a shopping bag. I get to the market, the Atlanta apparel market. There's a show going that day. And I just go door to door. I just went showroom to showroom looking around. Oh, hi, yeah, great, 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 nice, nice. And I had a retail store, so it wasn't like I didn't know what the shows would be like. I'd never been to Atlanta, but I knew as a retailer what it's like. So I wasn't completely blind, but I'd never been there. And I just walked in, and they're like, oh, how can we help you? Because I had a badge that said I'm a buyer. But I didn't, so I was looking for a rep. I was looking for someone to take my line in their showroom. And I walked out that day with 3 different options. And I got home and we cleaned up the paperwork and I picked one and I had a rep. And people told me that's not how you do it. They won't talk to you. They won't see you when you go there. They're too busy trying to sell. You can't do that.
Is it important to do it the way everybody does it, or you can do it? Is it better to do it?
I don't know. I didn't see the point of I didn't care if they laughed at me. I was like okay with that. And I don't like to get laughed at any more than the next person, but I think I'd just reach a point where I was just sick of it. And I was like, look, this is the fastest way I can think of. Why don't I just go? And it worked out. And the funny thing is, that's 15, 16, 17 years ago. One of my clients, she's in San Francisco. She wanted to get a rep. I told her that story. Honest to God, she got on a plane. She flew to Atlanta. She got offered a spot from the one guy. She took it that day before she even left. And everybody said, nobody does this. I can't even believe you had the nerve to do this.
I think a lot of times if nobody does that, it sort of says, well, don't you think somebody like me should? And sometimes the answer is, well, you should do it the normal way. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're, I think, mutually exclusive.
I don't know. I don't think the normal way works that well, usually, The normal way often takes a long time. And it wasn't like I was Bush League, I could handle one more rep. I knew, I could back it up with stuff. I wasn't just like, it wasn't my first season or anything, so it wasn't like I was a complete idiot.
How often does it make sense to follow the system? How often does it make sense to do it yourself?
Oh, I don't know. I guess it depends on the thing. So follow the system, in my world would mean I'm creating, there's a pattern here, all right? And I want the dress to hang a certain way. You got to follow the system. Don't be freelancing in how to 3-dimensionally craft a pattern, right? That's something there's a system and there's a reason. Marketing wise, getting yourself out there, I would hardly ever follow the system if I had the nerve to do that every time. I wish I did it more often, because sometimes it doesn't work, but it usually gets people's attention, at least. Like even today, okay? So I take a lot of risks with my marketing because I don't care if it doesn't work. I'll just try something again tomorrow, right? And part of it is a little bit maybe like a psychological disorder or something, like seriously, like a strong sense of denial. Because I remember when I did a talk for the Girl Scouts of America years ago, this little girl raised her hand and she's like, oh, well, thank you for telling us about your beautiful fashion career. You're so great and successful. Can you tell us about a time when things didn't work out, when you failed in business? And I was like, well, yeah, God, of course. Yeah, definitely. There's so many times. Let me just think of one. I couldn't think of one thing. And I think I just block it out. Like it's not normal, but it's helpful for me. So I just block it out. So this morning I woke up and I was in a terrible mood. I had so much to do. It's 5:45 in the morning. I'm overwhelmed. There's Christmas. There's everything. And then my son hadn't been feeling well last night. So the first thing I did is I went to check on him, and he's burning up in this sweaty, curly-haired mess. And I was like, Christ, I'm never going to get through this day. And I come downstairs, and I start to make coffee. And for some reason, I picked up my phone, which I never do this, and I checked Pinterest right away. The first thing that came up was this Deepak Chopra quote. And I'm going to say it wrong, but it's on my blog if you want to see it. It's fashionbrainacademy.com/blog. But it says something like, there's always chaos. Chaos always precedes.
Was it like discovery?
Greatness. Like there's chaos always precedes greatness or something good. And I was like, well, let's hope, because I am screwed, right? So I was sort of just moved to send that out to my mailing list, which I never do. I've never emailed them on a Monday in my life. Mondays are like, leave people alone. It's too much to go on. The open rates are going to be low. And it was the shortest email I've ever sent. It just said, hey, guys, this is what happened. Actually, it said, hey, guys, you'll feel better after you read this. Click here. Have a great day. Motivation Monday, I called it. The open rate is crazy good. The comments, I've gotten like 7 or 8 comments today. I don't usually get that many in the first day. And it was just like, you know what? I've never done it before. They're not expecting it. So they opened it. They looked, right? Because it was different, at least different from me. So it was fun. It was good. And I took a risk thinking, maybe a lot of people would unsubscribe because I emailed them last week too. You know, maybe they're going to be like, this is annoying. I don't need Motivation Monday. I'm trying to get to work. Leave me alone. Like, what are you, a motivational speaker? I don't know what their reaction was going to be.
If anybody has any questions, raise some hands. I want to ask you a question. Like, you know, one of the things that I think people realize from taking the course is that they need to shift the emphasis away from making creative objects to getting creative objects out into the world, and that somehow or another there's a stigma associated with that. But also, I mean, I think it's important to bring a playfulness to it, or to bring I think it's important for artists to bring the creativity from their art making to their careers.
That's a good point, because you're dealing with a lot of really creative people, but they don't think of it as to use it as a way of getting in front of people in marketing and selling, because it has that like dirty salesman kind of thing. But I have a saying, and I posted on the end of all of my trainings now: perfect is good, but done is better. And I do think that does apply to art. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a fine artist, so I can't speak from experience. I've certainly played with a lot of art, tried, you know, but you know, you're never done, right? You can always finish it. You can always do something better. You can always, that's not the best one, I'll try a new process. You know, it's never done. You go from, this is the greatest thing I've ever done, I'm a genius, to I hate this, I'm crap, this is crap. You know, you just, the waves of emotion that go when you're trying to produce something creative it's brutal. But so I really try to tell people to remember that perfect is good, but done is better. So it's sort of good enough is good enough, but
I've heard of this, don't let the good be the enemy of the best.
Yeah, that's good too. I mean, to me, done is better than perfect. There's a piece, it's not perfect. I know I could fix it to be better, but it's 80% good and it's done, I'll ship it. And I didn't do that when I first started. And I think most people's 80% good, 80% done is really good. I think we just get the crazy head, you know, to have to.
But is there still as much pride in what you're doing? Do you still get to do it? Do you finish a piece and you get to do a fist pump, go, yeah? Like every time I publish a book, it feels really good.
Yeah, but aren't there things you could have done better?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Do you care?
Not very much.
Not that much, because you're done, right? So I am not saying put something out there that's crappy or not up to your standards, but sometimes our standards are just kind of silly, right?
Yeah, well, that's true. Sarah, hold on, here I come. Your turn. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us. I have a question that's kind of, I guess, specific to crossover between fashion design and art. And I was wondering if in the fashion design world, if artists make wearable art, for example, how, I mean, we're talking about craft and stuff, and I don't know, I'm just wondering how important is it that seamstressing is perfect and those kinds of foundations that have to do with fashion design that maybe as an artist you wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if you don't have the craftsmanship to make it as beautiful, but you have.
Well, no, wait. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So like
not made in a traditional sense, like in terms of the fashion design world. I guess I'm asking because I wonder about, you know, I do some wearable art, and so sometimes there are some shows that I see come across that are specific to fashion design, and I think, well, I should enter that, but then I don't, because I am I wonder if that it's because it's not really my world, because I approach it from a very different place. And you know, and I know there are foundations to everything. And so I'm wondering, like, how easy is it, or how not easy, easygoing is it, I guess, is what I want to say.
Yeah, so it's okay. So what you would experience from the other designers is one thing, which you could completely ignore. Okay, but it's the customer. So which market are you in? How expensive are the pieces? If you're selling, you know, $2,000 dresses, they're going to expect certain finishes. If it's a $200 dress, they're not so picky, right? So if from a customer, I think it all depends on your customer. What does she care about? Period. That's it. But the second thing is, if you're not sure, I would go to that show and walk the show and see, like, hey, can I hang here? Does this feel like a little scary, out of my comfort zone, but doable if I'm not afraid to fail? If I'm going to be like Jane and have a really short memory and not remember if I did fail or not, you know, like. And so walk the show, and to get into those shows, if you're, you know, because the fashion world can be ridiculously, just ridiculous, you know, similar to the art world, but in an opposite way, like rude, you know. And so if you say, I'm interested in doing that show and I want to walk the show before I invest in a booth, then
no, I'm sorry, I wasn't communicating. I wasn't really talking about that kind of show. I meant like exhibition.
So, sorry?
Like an exhibition. Like in an exhibition, like in a museum, in a gallery.
I don't think it matters that much, because those people are not that picky. Shockingly unpicky. To the point where the things I learned in school I thought you had to do to produce a quality garment is totally out the window, because people buy their clothes at Target now. Mm-hmm. So I would say I would not worry about that.
So it's just about the aesthetic. Like, it could be.
The aesthetic. You put what you have, this beautiful thing on my right up here on a dress, it's great. They're not going to worry if the hem is like, fine. But again, it's price point too. If your price point's really high, you'll get some heat. But if it's not, I wouldn't.
Not for sale.
I'm trying to figure out how we relate this to fine art. Does it make any sense, Sarah?
Well, I mean, what I make is art. They're not clothes to be reproduced to market to the fashion world. But I see, you know, I don't even actually own them technically. They belong to somebody else, but I own the creative rights to them. So I could enter them, and I see like fashion exhibitions come across in the calls to artists. And so you know what I mean? Like, there'll be a show at the University of such and such of fashion design, and you know, there's a theme. And I think I often wonder how picky, because I know as a teacher or as an artist, I might look for those basic foundational skills, if that makes sense.
I don't know the answer, but I wonder if what's the good of doing it? What would be the purpose of entering that show is what I would wonder. Like, why do the show?
Yeah.
Are you going to sell something? Then what's the point?
I don't know, recognition, I guess. But I guess
I got nothing to say about that. I can't pay my electricity bill with recognition, you know. Okay, so let's just go there. So I have recognition. Let's say I got press or I got this. Is recognition then going to lead to buyers?
Yeah. I guess that would be my hope, that it would lead to something, another project, a new project with someone else. Maybe.
I hate to be the capitalist pig here, but I am, and so I will be. And so I would like to know, every decision is predicated on what do you want the outcome to be? Why would I do this show? Well, I want recognition. What particular recognition do you want? If I get that, what would it lead to? If that led to that, what would I get? And if there's no answer, then skip the show.
Okay. That sounds really like something I should already have known.
It's something
like,
you've
when
already
you spell
said.
it out like that, I mean, I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about it right now. Like, what is the recognition and what would be the outcome?
It sounds totally like what you've written on Facebook advising other people, Sarah.
Oh, yeah. I guess
but you know it's impossible to do for yourself. It's impossible. But that's why Paul looks at me and says, hey, snap out of it. You're doing this wrong. And I'm like, whoa. Well, you can't see it in yourself. You can't see it in yourself.
It's really weird, and it's really true. Avon, hold on. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Jane, I want to I want to stay on the subject of examining, what is good enough. Um, as artists, unlike you who had a storefront or somebody in fashion has immediate feedback from customers, as artists, we create these pieces. And some of them we know are shit, and others we think are wonderful. And yet they're not, there's aspects of it that we as artists don't like. How do we find out where that line is? How, since we're not getting customer feedback, how do we as artists find out where that line is, that this is good enough and it should be part of my web page and for sale?
I guess, you have to like it. You have to think it's good. There's been designs that I did just because I thought the customer would like it. And I was like, this is awful and terrible. And there's been things I thought were totally the best, like really this is a sure thing, and it didn't sell. So we don't always know what's good to them, right? We don't always know. But if you feel embarrassment about a piece of work, that's a different thing. What I'm saying is stop obsessing on the last 20% of finishing a piece, because that's what I see with so many different entrepreneur artist types in any realm. It doesn't matter what they're doing. Maybe it's 15%, maybe it's 10% for you, but truthfully step back a second and look at what is it that makes this piece great. Okay, that part's already done. So now I'm obsessing on the 5% that's over here that nobody cares about but me. And I really don't think you should put something out there that you think is bad. But at the same time, there's always things you can do to make it better, and you don't need to do them.
Yeah, many of those get painted over.
Right. If it's not bad, you're going to paint over it, right? But if you're not sure and you think it's good, but you're not sure, it's done. Let's just see what happens, right? Test. You have to test. There's only one way. You test.
Okay, thanks.
You bet.
Becky, go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so my question goes to this personality that you're describing that sort of says, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to be in people's face and I am going to sell myself because I think my work is wonderful and I'm going to be persistent.
Yeah.
And part of that sounds like a personality and not a skill. In other words, my personality isn't...
You think I was like that right from the womb?
Okay, well,
Yeah, no.
I'm wondering, is it a skill? Because
Yes.
It sounds like a personality.
Well, okay, it helps to have some of that personality. It does. At the same time, I'll be honest and tell you that I used to be petrified of public speaking. I couldn't have done this. I do webinars, I do seminars. I can remember when I was younger, when I had my store, somebody asked me to do a reading in their wedding. And I said, no, I can't do that. There's a microphone and it's a church. I cannot get up in front of people. So I don't know the answers, but I can tell you this was not the way I used to be. Okay. And I think I just got tired of mediocre results. 5 years of just schlepping and whatever. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to waitress or I'm going to do this and make more money. So I don't know the answer for sure, but for me, it was definitely something I had to force myself to do. And I do recall the day I decided to do it was, and it's funny because I never really thought of this, or I don't know if I've told the story ever, but now Paul is just bringing it out of me. So this woman called me up, and she's a famous woman, you know her name. And she calls up and she says, hi, I'm calling, how are you, Jane? I met you at a party one time. Great. And she says, I want to collect for the homeless Chicago, food depository. And would you do a donation? And I was like, yeah, sure. And she's like, oh God, thank you. And I was like, no problem. I said, you did that so great. She goes, you're kidding, because I hate doing this. And I said, you sounded so good. Raising money for a nonprofit, that's got to be tough. And she goes, I'll tell you what I do. I pretend I'm my sister-in-law. I've heard her on the phone. She's really good at it. She doesn't care. She doesn't feel embarrassed. And I do exactly what she does. I wrote down the script. I use the tone of voice that she uses. I pretend I'm somebody else. Yeah, that's it. And I would also suggest that you just start with some people or some places things that aren't that important to you. You know, if it's your number one, oh my God, it's Paul-Klein. Don't start with him. Start with like a C-list celebrity. and I also, when you were saying, the one thing that struck me when you said, I have this thing, I'm so great. I don't know if I ever thought that, but the way I describe it now is that, I don't know, I can't see everybody's hands, but how many people listening like brownies? Like, does anybody, like the people I can see, raise your hand. Do you like brownies? Would you eat a brownie? Okay. Are you, all right, I'm getting there. There's some hands. Okay, so are you I need nuts in my brownies person? Okay, nuts, yes. No nuts for me. I need chewy brownies. Chewy. Okay, no chewy. I need cake-like brownies with the powdered sugar on top. Okay, there's those people. There's milk chocolate brownies. There's dark chocolate brownies. There's brownies with chocolate chips. There's a million different kinds of brownies. So if you say, I like brownies, that doesn't really mean anything because I'm not going to waste my calorie on a cake-like brownie with frosting on it. I'm just not going to eat that. Right? You bring me a chewy fudge brownie, my hand is up, I'm gonna do it. Okay, so what I say is and tell me your name again.
Becky.
Becky, you make brownies. You have a particular kind of brownie, and some people are gonna love that brownie. And some people are not gonna waste their calories on that particular brownie. They agree it's a nice brownie, but it's not for them. So you have brownies to share with the universe. And what your mission is to say, guys, who likes this kind of brownie? Let me show you what I have. Oh, you're the frosting brownie. Do you know anybody who likes the dark fudge? That's what I do. You want to send them to me? Can you give me will you connect me? Because it's amazing how many people who will reject you will be very happy to send you on to somebody else. No, it's amazing. And gallery owners especially. And boutique owners the same. If they say, no, I can't carry it. I can't carry that. My customer won't buy it, whatever. But you should, and then you're leaving. You say, well, who do you think it's for? Who would you suggest I try? You have a kind of brownie. That's it. And it's you are sharing it, and they can like it or they can pass. That's it. And if they pass, they pass. That's no big deal.
Yeah, that's obviously true. I mean, there's a lot of people out there in the world who like different kinds of brownies. And, you just have to, what else? I don't see it as a no. I just see it as like dating. And I see it like, I see it like, well, you're just not appropriate for me. I see it as it's a non-starter. It's a non-fit. It's not like we were in bed and you jumped out of bed and said, I'm sorry, I'm out of here. It's sort of like you're walking down the street and you never connected in the first place. You just saw each other and you thought no, and he thought no, and well, it was no. But that doesn't constitute rejection in my book. It just sort of like something else. All right, Jane, I think we're all good here. I really appreciate all the information, the input, the valuable work you do. I'm going to unmute everybody, and I think you have been, I love you. Hold on. Where's the unmute everybody? Unmute all. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.